Hello, welcome. We're broadcasting live from Park City, Utah, where I am. And Jamie, are you in London now, or are you in Miami?
I'm not. I just arrived in Miami last night, so
Oh,
so
good.
I'm in sunny Miami.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you all for joining us today or this morning. Um, we're super happy to have Jamie with us and his new venture and gig at BlockBar. For the record, we've known each other for quite a long period of time. And so when I noticed, it was hard not to notice Jamie anyway with his tenure at Sotheby's in New York City and various parts of the world. But when I noticed that he was going on to this new venture, I thought it would be really interesting to the community and, of course, to me to see what he's up to. And I'm super glad that he has agreed to be with us today. So we know you're there. We can't we see or hear you, but you're welcome as attendees to go ahead and post any questions you like as we go along here in the chat box or the Q&A. The objective of today is just to have some fun with Jamie, talk about what he's doing, see if any of the folks in the community are interested in following BlockBar and what he's doing there, and just have a nice, fun conversation. So thank you all again for being here. We're going to record this and then post it in a variety of places, and we'll let you know where that's going to be. Also, after you're viewing this today, if there's anybody that you know that would be interested in finding out more about BlockBar and what Jamie's doing there, you're certainly welcome to do that, and we'll make sure we catalyze that by putting everybody in touch. So with that, Jamie, so happy to have you. We had a little chat beforehand, and it's been quite a long period of time, but thank you for being here. How about giving us a little background about BlockBar, and then we can talk about what caused you to make that move.
Sure. Thank you, Arthur. It's been great catching up with you after a little while. I think the last thing we talked about was authenticity challenges in the wine and spirits market, and that must have been what, 15 or so years ago. I chose to leave Sotheby's after 32 years and join a startup business called BlockBar. It's coming up for its 2-year anniversary, so it's already up and running. And essentially, there's always been a challenge within the wine and spirits, the high quality wine and spirits business, in doing a few things. One is getting the right bottles to the right people who want to enjoy them, and the other is managing that provenance, authenticity, condition process, because traditionally bottles were always produced by top quality producers, and then they needed export markets to sell them. So the bottles were generally produced, sold to an export market, and then disappeared from traceability. So they might go to Sweden, and then it might be resold to America, and then it might be resold to Asia, but there was no traceability about it. And that's both traceability from the consumer's point of view, who's buying it and may want to consume it, and also traceability from the producer's point of view. It's opaque for them as to where their bottles are and where they are in the marketplace. So it's actually, while I was at Sotheby's, I was looking at the BlockBar model and the blockchain model, and I really do believe that the distribution chain is going to change pretty fundamentally in the next 5 or 6 years, primarily because of blockchain technology, primarily because of the market conditions. So, good things always happen at good times, and they need good times. Timing is important. But essentially what's happened is that the producers now have global demand. So the distribution, the power shifted from the distribution side of the business back to the producers. And the producers want to know 3 things about their business. One is who's bought my bottle or case or cask. Number 2 is who owns it today. And number 3 is who's consuming it. And obviously the third one's the most important. And the consumer wants to know that, is this bottle authentic? Is it in good provenance? Is it in good condition? Can I drink it? So the blockchain technology essentially enables that to happen. BlockBar takes bottles, cases, casks, barrels directly from producers and sells them directly to consumers. So they're going as close to you can get to the direct to consumer route without the actual producer actually dinging the credit card and delivering the bottles. So it's a direct consumer platform from producer to consumer. And then and obviously each bottle, case, cask goes on blockchain. And what that means is that essentially, rather than buying the actual bottle and having delivery of it, you buy an NFT, a token for it. And that token can be redeemed for the bottle, the case, the cask. So it's an asset-backed NFT. So the value of the NFT is exactly the value of the asset behind it, so the bottle, the cask, etc. And then once you own your NFT, you can do 4 things with it. You can either you can just store it, and so do nothing with it. It's in your wallet. You just keep it, and BlockBar will store it for you. You can gift it to someone. You can sell it. There's a marketplace, and you can sell it. You wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and trade it, or you can redeem it. And so redeeming it takes physical possession of the bottle, the case, the cask, etc. So within that process, the advantages for the consumer are that you've got guaranteed authenticity, provenance, condition. You know where it's been all its life, etc. And you have the flexibility to do the tools with it. For the producers, it's interesting because they also understand who owns it, who initially bought it, who owns it today, and who's redeemed it. So they know how much is in circulation, how much is still available in the secondary marketplace. They can get data around the secondary marketplace as to demographics, geographics, etc. So it's a much more transparent marketplace. And I believe that the buyers today are obviously transitioning from being an older generation to being a younger generation. And the BlockBar consumers are obviously digitally savvy, and they skew into the sort of 70 to 90% in the millennial and Gen Z range. And these are people who collect in a slightly different way. They collect, they don't think of having to drag all their possessions back home, like maybe my generation does. They're happy, they're more transient people. They don't know if they're going to work in New York or Shanghai or Paris next year. They're happy to have collections, which are virtual. Well, they're physical actual products, but they're held digitally, and therefore they can be redeemed anywhere. And they think of spending money in a different way. They spend the money. My son's 19. He worked hard as an intern in the summer in New York. He earned a decent amount of money. He thinks nothing is spending 500 or more bucks on a pair of sneakers. A person age 60 is probably not going to do that. So the whole sort of market is transitioning to a new generation, collecting in a slightly different way. And the benefits of blockchain technology and the traceability is really what excited me about leaving Sotheby's and joining a startup, with a fun bunch of people who are super smart and want to go fast.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity in the digital marketplace. We've seen it evolve and fits and starts, but I think the blockchain part of it has been there for a long time in some fashion or another, and that has some of the token stuff has been difficult because of what's happened, but any nascent business has this sort of thing, FTX, etc. I think it's pretty clear on what you're saying for the consumer. Can we talk a little bit more about what the benefit is for the producer? They basically disintermediated the distribution, and that knowing where it is and where it's been, who it was sold to, whether it's stored or consumed, how does that help them in a business way?
So, so number one is yes, a number of producers want to capture more of the dollars in the primary market sale, because obviously, if something goes from 100 to 500 in the secondary market in one step, then they're not capturing that. So this is a method of them going directly to the consumer and capturing some of that margin. They really want to know, though, about who their consumer is and what their consumer is doing. So during traditional distribution, that doesn't really take place. This way around, they obviously get to know who it sells to in the primary market as the first buyer, but then you also get to track who it goes to second, third, fourth time. So they get the data on it. We report data to the producers every 6 months about what's gone on. They know how many's been redeemed. They know how many is still available. They know what other what other likes of the people who are holding those tokens. So they understand they're much more about the clients and what are they doing, and the demographics about them, the geographic regions of where they are. And so all of that is very useful. At the end of the day, for the first buyer, they're just flipping it. They're probably not so excited. They want to know who that is. They're probably not so excited by it. Yeah. They really want to know who's redeeming it, because that's going to be the consumer. And so I think all of these producers at the end of the day are going to think of how do they reward and engage and energize and excite their best consumers. And so number one, you've got to know who they are, and then you've got to come up with programs to make them excited. And whether that's experiential events at the distillery, we're talking about Buffalo Trace beforehand, and so they're starting to think about, like, how do I make the experience around what we do exciting, fun, and interesting. So for me, I work in the wine and spirits business. It's my work, but I'm very, very cognizant of the fact that for all of our clients, it's their fun. So we're taking time out of their days to where they're pursuing their passion, their interest, their joy. And we've got to make it passionate, interesting, and joyful. And so as this evolves, I think it's got to be, I think part of it is also the platform is, we're moving into different sales methods of like first come, first serve, shuffles, sealed bid, auctions, fractional bidding.
It'd be so much fun. Right.
So, well,
for everybody.
We've got to make the not only just we have to have experiences and events which are fun. We've got to have the gamification of the sales be fun and interesting and enjoyable. Because people when they're collecting, they like to be smart, they like to be trading, they like to be part of the game. And you've got to make that fun and interesting. And I think the technology which BlockBar has enables you to do that. And then you just got to be creative with both the producers and yourselves to find interesting ways for promoting the right offers at the right time to the right people.
And the experiences, like you said, like it's, oversimplification, a producer sells to, the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board, and that is the end of it. Right? They have no idea who's buying their stuff. They can't communicate with them. They can't throw a party in Miami and say, thanks for buying a case of Buffalo Trace and, come and, see the spirit maker or whatever. You can't, because they don't even know who they are. So
traceability and visibility is super important, I think, going forward for all the producers. Obviously, it's important on the consumer side because you want to know that what you're getting is authentic and it's in good condition. But from the producer side, I think it gets much more important. And at the end of the day, the market is going to grow pretty significantly in terms of the number of people who want to drink high quality wines and spirits. I think at the end of the day, they're probably going to drink less of them than the older generation who consume a healthy quantity. But I think they'll continue to premiumize and drink better. So again, all the data that people can have around it is very, very interesting.
There was a friend of mine who was in the wine business, who still is in the wine business. And I took seriously what he said to me when I offered him a glass of wine. He said, "What is it?" And I said, and he goes, "Listen, I'm in the wine business. I got to be nice to my liver. And if I'm going to drink something, it better be good." Right? So, I mean, you've only so much you can do to your liver, right?
I would say that that's expanded. There's a lot of wine people who think like that, and I'm in agreement with them. But I also hear it much more from regular consumers as well. It's just like, I want to drink. I just want to drink something good. If it's and so the endless premiumization. I think, obviously the mass premiumization we've had over COVID period is dissipating a little bit, but the true premiumization is still growing.
Yeah. How have you thwarted the regulatory issues around all this?
Well,
Yeah. Well, you don't have
well,
to let it go the secrets, but
no, it's a very good question because it's challenging. Um, the so the liquor business, wines and spirits, is highly regulated. The NFT business is highly regulated. But again, liquor is either the state or the country level. State level in the US, mostly country level elsewhere. And NFT regulation is evolving very fast. And then there's the shipping side of it too. So BlockBar is a platform that is headquartered in Panama. And so from a regulatory point of view, from selling alcoholic beverages and selling NFTs, it's one of the few places that actually does work in the world, and is incredibly efficient around it. So that works on the regulation around the sale of alcohol and the sale of NFTs. In terms of the shipping, we ship effectively the clients are self-shipping to themselves, and they can ship to roughly 35 countries around the world. So we don't go to places where we can't go, or we don't want to go, as in it's too dangerous to go because the bottles are unlikely to get there, etc. So we're pretty much a broad distribution. Obviously, it's a global marketplace. Anyone can buy from anywhere in the world, and we're lucky that the Falick family, who are the owners of BlockBar and the creators of it, they also own a business called Duty Free Americas, and DFA has 250 stores. It's headquartered here in the building where I'm sitting in Miami, and they have 250 stores in airports and along the borders in the US. So wines and spirits can be arranged to be collected from those duty-free stores as well. But essentially everything's held in bond, and is then shipped directly to the consumers wherever they want them, so long as that's the place they can get them. Otherwise, they can be collected.
So is that the two brothers that started the duty-free stores?
So DFA is three brothers, the Falick family, who own Duty Free Americas.
Yeah, it's a great story about them. So one of the workarounds, as we know, is people would be buying a collection of wine in Bordeaux, and basically they own it there and they put it in a container and ship it to themselves. That was one of the workarounds, right? It wasn't a producer selling to them. So that's essentially what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah, I mean, so in those days, I mean, we're currently storing wines and spirits in Singapore. We're actually going to be opening up different warehousing operations in more than likely in Bordeaux and Beaune and in the UK for whiskey business. So we'll probably have a network of distribution points, and I think the idea of dragging all your property to your home is one that I think is fading out. I've just moved from New York to Miami, and I'm spending more time in Paris. And my wine is still in New York, and I need to figure out, okay, how do I move that now? I think the idea of your bottle staying close to the location of production. So my Bordeaux's always come from Bordeaux. My Beaune's always come from Beaune. My whiskey from Scotland is sort of makes sense.
It does.
And then if you want to, you can consolidate it at one of the warehouses around the world, or you can have it shipped to different locations. I don't believe that the desire to have everything in one's home immediately is any longer a driving factor or going to really resonate with the younger generation.
Especially if you're looking at it as a digital representation of the asset that is not only something that you could potentially consume at the right time, but as an investment, right? So,
right. So, we don't know what collectors, when in my days at Sotheby's, we never knew what collectors were doing. Were they investing? Were they collecting? Generally, it's probably a bit of both. You got some pure consumers, you got some pure investors, and you got most people who are somewhere in the middle. They buy more than they can consume. I think consumption is important. at the end of the day, the great wine and spirits producers don't make it to be stored indefinitely in a place and become an investment. So interesting enough, of what's available to be redeemed so far that's been offered by BlockBar, 30% has been redeemed. So we like that as a number. We don't we're definitely not encouraging not to be redeemed. We like it being redeemed. We like it being consumed. That's why people buy and sell it. But sorry, people will buy it, and they should buy it. And so that's an important part of it. Is the redemption is super important. The interesting thing with the tools we operate with, BlockBar is that you can encourage certain behaviors. You can have everything must be redeemed by X date. You can have them all redeemed at a party,
like
an experience.
A called bond, same idea, right?
Yeah. So you can do lots of fun things with it, which again you can't do in the traditional distribution system.
Yeah. I don't need to hear the details, but if the storage is part of the expense, is that a significant amount of the friction on the value of my NFT? In other words, is it slicing off 1% a year to store it? And like I said, you don't have to give us all the details, but is that a big factor, the friction on storage?
So the way we see storage today is, we're building our business. So we're giving free storage until 2030. And so and at that time, we'll look at the different scale of it. So we have a free storage until 2030. In terms of storage, and we cover that expense by there is a fee on the secondary marketplace. So if you've got your NFT and for whatever reason you choose that you want to sell it, every time that sells, the producer gets 5%, and the BlockBar platform gets 5%. 90% goes to the owner of the NFT, and so we take that 5% and pay for the storage bills out of it. So that's the sort of rough economic model.
Totally makes sense. Yeah,
but it's not so it shouldn't be material. At this point, but generally when you're collecting wines and spirits, you should take into account the cost of distribution, the taxes and cost of distribution in delivery to you, and then the cost of distribution again on the secondary side, and any fees. So this way, by staying in one place, is much more efficient, and it's also better for the world.
Yeah. So what is it too soon to ask what your ideal customer looks like?
No, it's not too soon. I mean, I think it's obviously someone who's going to be digitally savvy, or at least engaged in a new world. For me, I've never been one person who looks back very, very much. I'm always looking forward to the next thing. And I'm not the most technical person in the world. I mean, I can do most things, but I'm not writing code. I'm super engaged in this and super interested and find it pretty easy to do. So I think we're looking for people who want to engage in a new channel of distribution that's probably at the cutting edge and is going to grow and be a bigger part of the distribution platform, but they have an interest in high quality wines and spirits. If you don't, then there's probably less excitement around it. But we want that engagement. The storytelling's fun. The story about what are they doing, all these producers and the characters behind them, and why they're doing what are they doing is super interesting. And that's that results in a unique flavor in the glass. So I think we're really looking for sort of forward-looking people. Obviously, it's going to skew younger. But who are interested in buying and selling, or buying and keeping and consuming top quality wines and spirits.
Yeah. So when, once you get past what seemingly is the daunting MetaMask wallet, once you get past that, then it gets simple, right? Because for some people, it's a daunting complexity, like back when we did CD backslash to open up a computer, right? It's once you figure it out, it's not that daunting. I mean, there's all kinds of complexity behind it, but just to transact, it's not that difficult, right? So
No, I mean, and our whole aim is to make everything simple. Yeah, so simple to do everything and simple to explain. And we have a wonderful CTO who is all about that. And and I'm a newcomer to the business, and obviously it's been running for a couple of years. So and I come from a sort of a rather different perspective, and and they're very welcome to my ideas, because my ideas are only about simplification. Like, how do we make this quicker? How do we make it easier?
Yeah.
And so I've just gone through, I've been through the process of setting up my wallet, linking it to the site, and doing everything. And it's like, it's not complicated.
Yeah.
And there aren't a whole number of risks around. So it's a fun thing to actually get engaged. And when you get there and you've done it, you go like, oh, this
wasn't so bad, right?
this wasn't so bad. And now you feel confident that like you're actually understanding the new world and what's going forward. Yeah.
Yeah. So how have the producers taken to this idea? Has it been inch by inch? Is it how's that going?
So I'd say that's a super interesting question. So BlockBar, because it comes out of DFA heritage, it has a lot of great relationships with the greatest spirits producers in the world.
Yeah.
And so those producers, I think, have evolved from saying, okay, this is interesting. Let's do a project and figure out what a project looks like. And the conversations we're having now is, I think that, okay, we understand the technology, we understand what it works, we understand the vision of where you at BlockBar try and take it. We know that we have to be in this marketplace because the new consumers are in this marketplace, and as they look at growth going forward, they need the new consumer. So therefore, that is something that they can't ignore. So rather than looking at one-off projects, we're now moving to looking at how do we become a part of their distribution platform going forward, and then what's the share of it and what does that look like? So the conversations, which I've obviously only been here for 3 months, so I can't speak with a great deal of experience, but from my understanding, the conversation we're having today are a lot different than ones we had before, because we're evolving into rather than a one-off project, we're evolving into a cycle of projects. And so I think that's super interesting. And obviously, you've always got the early adopters, you've got the people, I'm never ever going to do that. And you've got everyone else in the middle. So I think, I think, obviously, and I think that the spirits businesses, because they produce something 365 days a year, they've got marketing teams, they've got younger people in their marketing teams who are Web3 savvy. They are ahead of, I would say, where the traditional wine businesses are. The wine, in the southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere, the wine producers are finishing up picking the grapes. Then they know what quantity they'll have to sell. Then they'll think about selling it. It's a different thing. I think champagne houses somewhere in the middle, but I think it's I think everyone, with globalization, premiumization, the complexities of the markets, the rise of non-alcoholic drinks, the rise of marijuana, I think everyone is thinking about, okay, how do I engage with the next generation of consumers? And this, I think, is one way which is important and sort of shows the light forward.
Yeah, there was you just touched on something that not sure how real it is, but there's been lots of narrative about the people going away from alcohol, and whether it's marijuana or nothing. Like, is that trend real?
I think well, you've seen a lot of the growth in RTDs, which is sort of it is alcohol, but it's a different form of consuming it. You've seen a rise in non-alcoholic drinks and the evolution of that. And you've seen, obviously, if you've been anywhere around the streets of New York, you get a hefty waft of marijuana on every street corner. So I think those things are coming. So if you're producing, wines and spirits at the lower price point ends, I think you've got a very different future ahead of you. I think if you're producing something which is directly from a specific terroir, vineyards, microclimate site, or a specific distillery in Scotland, or from tequila, or mezcal, Oaxaca, I think it's a different conversation, but you still got to get your storytelling right, and you still got to offer value for money in the bottle. But I think it will continue to premiumize, and and the audience will be there for something that's genuinely good.
Yeah, the best. Like, we talked about it earlier, but if I'm going to beat up my liver, I might as well do it with something that's really good, right?
Sure. Yeah. And I think a younger generation also really appreciate the experiences together. We myself as an older generation have always appreciated that too. But I think they appreciate it in a slightly more different way than we do. And I think part of drinking something meaningful and sharing it is important. And if you look at sort of Asia as obviously a growth market for everyone, then they also really enjoy sharing things together. And if you look at food, it's like you very rarely see two people sitting down together. You see a party of people sharing a number of dishes. Fitting in wines or spirits into that is very easy and part of the process.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. It's unrelated, but I'm wondering if you have any opinion on this. There's been a lot of talk about artificially accelerating the aging process with some science for spirits, for example. Is that legit?
Well, I mean, I think you can artificially age anything. Is it going to be better than if you age it slowly in a more traditional way? I would say that. I mean, I would say it'll be different. At the end of the day, the finesse, the nuance, the complexity, the length that you get through either a bottle of wine aging in its bottle, or you get through a spirit aging in its vessel, I think leads to something that is sublime. And when it's truly complex and it's truly ethereal, and the taste lasts for minutes, can you repeat that artificially by doing something else? I suspect not. You can clearly adjust it, but it's real complexity and length and concentration that I'm not sure you'll be able to do that. And if you can, that'll be then it's just you're in a lab.
Yeah, just like the artificially laboratory created diamonds. Replicating nature, it might be productive to do certain things, but I personally feel that if it wasn't done the traditional way, then it's not really part of the experience. But that's just an editorial.
So what's authenticity?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. We didn't talk about this, but the company doesn't need funding, right? Is there a fundraising going on or no?
There's been no fundraising. The company's not taken the Felig family have not taken any outside capital, so no fundraising has happened to date. So it's been held by the Felig family, for me, when I was leaving Sotheby's after 32 years and joining a startup, working with a family who was not taking outside capital, who have the DFA business behind them. Those were in addition to the fact they've got a great idea and they're nice people. It was important for me to understand that this is a business that has a solid structure, a solid financial base, and it has experience in running a large scale beverage operation.
Yeah, having all those duty-free outlets is impressive. I mean, that put them far advance of anybody that wanted to do this from a dead start. I mean that's a whole other thing, right?
It's two things. It's operationally, they understand how it all works, and it's generally complicated. And then from a relationship point of view, obviously, and a reputation point of view.
Yeah. So right now, if you wanted to go onto BlockBar, register. There's available NFTs representing spirits and wine. So somebody could go on and start looking around and browse and see what's interesting.
Yep, absolutely. So you go to blockbar.com, you visit the site. There's some bottles which are available in the primary market still. We just did a Port Ellen drop of a 40-year-old last week, and there are a few bottles that's still available. And then the secondary marketplace, yeah, there's available different bottles from what's been sold over the previous 2 years. So we have drops, a regularly scheduled release of drops, which will be increasing in volume. We'll probably have a number through the end of this year, and then I expect January, February, March, April to be a steadily increasing volume throughout next year. And I think my colleague Charlotte maybe set up an offer for the which I think you know about.
Yeah, it's capital, family office, all capitals, 50. I'll put it in the chat box.
And so I think if you use that, then they can use that when they're checking out, and that gives $50 off any purchase. Yep. Go
super
check it out.
kind of you. Yeah.
I think one of the interesting things is looking around. Some of it is we're definitely a business that's selling using blockchain to sell fine wine and spirits, but in a new way. We're not just applying an NFT to a retail business. This is a new way to collect, store, sell wine and spirits. So it's sort of different to normal retail. And if you take a look at it, the visuals are pretty interesting. We have an amazing creative
the graphics are impressive.
Yeah.
Well, what's the bottle in the cylinder case that's wrapped?
Spinning there. That's a Glenfiddich. Yeah, the Glenfiddich 50. The Glenfiddich 30-year-old. That's a beautiful bottle, and our creative director Vahab, he's a genius, and he makes it all look great.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And then there was this maybe this is the one that you just mentioned, the limited edition heart-shaped bottle of not being very helpful to you.
The Port Ellen. Yep.
Yeah,
that's the Port Ellen. So that's a Duncan Taylor Port Ellen, 40-year-old. So Port Ellen was a distillery that closed literally 2 months after that, but the cask was filled. So it's become a legendary distillery while it's been closed. And they're actually going to reopen it next year. But since it's been closed, this was literally filled. This cask was filled 2 months before the distillery closed, and we just released the distillery. Duncan Taylor released 209 bottles, of which we have 10 on BlockBar. So there are a few left. So it's an amazing liquid.
Yeah. How about port? Do you expect to do port as well?
Yep. Yeah. That'll be coming. I think we're moving. We've been heavily concentrated in spirits to date. Yeah. We've done a few things with a couple of champagne houses, Renard Perret Jouet, and Penfolds, the Australian producer. Yeah. But we'll be looking to add a lot more wine and spirits on next year, including port.
Yeah, very cool. I told you we've been traveling. We went to Porto. It was the first time I've been to Portugal. It was just outrageous. I mean, talk about the history, like unbelievable. Yeah.
But Portugal, England's oldest ally. So that's when when the English were having a challenge getting Bordeaux, they went to Portugal, and hence port came around, because the original wines they shipped were not stable. So therefore they started adding the making the sweet, stopping the fermentation, and so that's why a lot of the port houses are English. Great wines that we look forward to working with.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about the epic auction that you are famous for at Sotheby's, but the $1.2 million, whatever it was? We talk about that. I don't want to embarrass you, but that was like unbelievable, right?
The Macallan 1926? Yeah. I mean, that's still the world record price for a bottle of wine or whiskey. It sold for 1.9 million. And that was in 2019. We did the as part of the launch of the the whiskey category at Sotheby's, we created a sale called the Ultimate Whiskey Collection, which was a whiskey collector who actually had a collection in the US, and we shipped it over to London. And we didn't put it in the Bond Street headquarters. We actually worked with a then colleague of mine at Sotheby's, who's running their car business, and we put it into a car exhibition at Olympia. So we had the whiskey and the cars all together. We had a Macallan bar, and it was a magical atmosphere. And yeah, that bottle of Macallan 26 sold for 1.9 million, still the world record.
Wow, it's crazy. I'm not asking you to tell us who it was, but what's the profile of somebody that would do that?
Who would buy that?
Yeah.
So I mean, so the question is are you ever going to drink that? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yes.
And I suspect probably not. Although, if you break it down, yeah, a bottle of wine. So a bottle of wine. I was also lucky enough to be the auctioneer for the highest value bottle of wine, which is $580,000, and still hold the record for that. And but if you open a bottle of wine, you've roughly got, I don't know, 14, 16 pours, and you're one and done in a night. If you open a bottle of whiskey, maybe you've got 30 to 40 pours, yeah, and you can do that over a period of time. So let's just say you're Jeff Bezos, and yeah, you want to give someone something they've never ever tasted before and will ever taste again.
Yes,
you can probably do it 30 or 40 times. That's so. I mean, when you break it down that way, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And so that I think helps explain the difference between prices of single bottles of whiskey and single bottles of wine, which are normally sold in cases. So it's sort of interesting that difference about it. But yeah, to be honest with you, that auction of Sotheby's in 2019 was the one that really lit up the secondary market in spirits. Obviously, particularly first Scotch whiskey, then Japanese whiskey, then American whiskey. But that was really the catalyst to really set the market on fire.
Yeah, crazy. Congratulations. That's such a great story. Thanks for sharing with us. So let's just repeat for the group how best just go onto the website, blockbar.com, register, peruse, browse, keep your eye out, and you're announcing new things coming all the time.
Yeah, join the mailing list, because then you'll get a update of whatever drops are coming up, and then generally they sort of go live, roughly speaking, 10 to 7 days before a drop, and then you would if you're interested, you join a waiting room to show your interest, and then when the drop happens, you're around to make sure that you can purchase it. So we do different models of sales, like first come first serve. We do shuffles, we do auctions, seal bid, etc. So a lot of different ideas, and we're moving into the fractionalization, which will be fun to see how our interpretation of gamification is on that too.
Yeah, super fun. Well, Jamie, thanks. And at some point, maybe we can do this again and sort of get an update of how things are going, and share with the community. And I super appreciate you jumping on this morning. It's been a long time since we've been able to chat, but happy to see that you're in Miami. We'll probably see you down there. But thank you for doing this. And don't forget, everybody, there's the family office caps 50. If you want to jump on, you end up pulling the trigger on something, there Jamie has kindly offered $50 off with that, and so it's super nice of you to do that. And let's do this again.
Great. I'd love to. And if people have questions, obviously you can always reach out and send us questions too.
We'll make sure everybody gets the information and put in touch. And super grateful for you being here. And everybody, thank you for joining and spending with us. The only thing you can't make more of, and that's your time. Till next time. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Arthur. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.